Okay, something for a little context with a lot of these older explosions that were set off by gas. Um, Either the gas was sparked by the metal rail cars in the rails, or it was set off by miners smoking, which has happened quite often, or by the open flame of a miner's light. Um, Back the turn of the century, they did not have electricity, they did not have batteries. There was no way for men to see underground without torches, without candles. And a lot of miners, they either had small candles that would burn for 45 minutes, an hour, and they would have a polished metal plate behind it to act as a mirror to direct the light, or they had a small metal canister that held lamp oil with wick that they could adjust, also with the polished metal behind it. That's how these men saw underground. They had lights, they had candles, oil lamps. That's the only way they could see underground. They didn't have electricity at the time. This explosion that I'm going to talk about happened because of an open flame of a miner's light. On December 14th, 1910, in the Bond and Bruce Coal Company mine, the Greeno mine, in Tacoma, same one I just went over. This one was caused by accumulation of gas in the lower levels, likely set afire by an open flame of one of the miner's lights. The Times Dispatch of the 15th states, up to a late hour tonight when rescue work had to be stopped on account of atmospheric conditions, 9 bodies have been brought to the surface and 2 live miners, one of whom died shortly after being taken out. And back then they had next to no medical help at all. The first reports were that 26 men were in the mine at the time, but it developed later that only 12 were in the mine. 8 lost their lives. The work of the rescue was concluded at 3 a.m. when the last of the entombed men walked out from the blackened entrance of the mine alive. The men who died were burned to death. The men rescued alive were James Rosenberg, John Roden, G.E. Lehman, and John Ritzke. The men who perished were James Barrowman, foreman, William Ritchie, foreman, Gus Ritchie, who was only 15, he was a driver, Arch Leslie, driver, Lee Rowland, trip rider, George Miller, miner, and in all the records it said that he was Slavic, and back then they always made sure to list the nationality of the miners. There was a very, very wide divide between how white miners, black miners, and immigrant miners were treated. Sadly, that was the way of the world back then. George Whitaker, who was the bank boss, Charles Miller, who was the miner, and C.H. Williams. In total, 22 were killed with 26 entombed. A lot of the men that I know this list isn't complete, but the others that passed away, they succumbed later on to their injuries. And I haven't been able to find out exactly who they were. Records back then are scarce and hard to come by.